Okay.
Okay,
Ready?
here we
Yeah.
go.
2, 1. Welcome back to the Double Scrub. I'm Dr. Radhika Sharma, and today's conversation feels especially meaningful on the heels of Women's History Month. When we talk about women making history, we talk about women having first achievements and milestones and breakthroughs, but we don't talk a lot about reinvention, the
Mhm.
quiet rebuilds, where strength shifts from being physical and visible to emotional and internal. So I am so excited today to be sitting down with Heidi Powell, someone many of you know for her work in fitness, transformation, and public life. But this conversation isn't just about before and after photos, it's about identity. It's about a second act, it's about evolution. It's about what happens when the woman you were at age 15 meets the woman you are today. We're going to talk about early ambition, public pressure, a little bit of parenting, redefining ages, and what strength looks like in this chapter of her life. Heidi, I am so grateful you're here, and let's get started.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
It's
This is
it's
gonna be
going to be
fun.
great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I got the honor of meeting Heidi just under a year ago, and we've worked together, and she's inspired me so much. So I thought on Women's History Month, who better to have? So let's get started. So if the version of you from 15 years ago could see you today, what would surprise her the most?
Okay, let's think about this. The version of me 15 years ago. I'm 43 now. So that
Uh-huh.
would be a 28-year-old Heidi. Oh, I feel like I was so lost at 28 still. And I was
Uh-huh.
still chasing what I thought other people wanted. I was still chasing approval of others.
Uh-huh.
So what would that Heidi be most surprised about if she saw me today? I think she wouldn't even recognize. I mean, there's a couple things. Uh, for starters, I think she would never imagine that she could achieve some of the things at 43 that I have, but
Yeah.
not even in a worldly way, right? Like, I
Uh-huh.
think that Heidi probably thought the worldly things were more important, but um, the amount of self-love that I have,
Uh-huh.
confidence, grace for myself and for other people,
Yeah.
just awareness in general. I think a lot of the things that Heidi of 28 um, w- didn't have that I have now are things
Uh-huh.
that that younger version of me couldn't even see, right? Like, I think she would be more surprised that there's, I feel like there's just, when there's freedom in accepting all of who we are, there's a different kind of a light. And so I think it would be something so intangible. I think that Heidi of 28 wouldn't be able to put her finger on what it is.
Yeah.
But there would be almost just a shock that, like, I've arrived at a place where food doesn't hold me back anymore, where the
Uh-huh.
opinions of others don't dictate how I live my life,
Uh-huh.
and where truly I'm, Heidi 43 is free. I
Yeah.
think there's also another part, though. I was just talking about this the other day with someone, but 28-year-old Heidi, I think, put so much emphasis on how her body looked and maybe the amount of zeros in the bank account and
Yeah.
saying yes to everybody. So sometimes I think that Heidi would look at me now and be like, oh my gosh, she doesn't wear makeup. Wait, she doesn't dress to the hilt all the time. All these things
Mhm.
that actually, I kind of had this like epiphany the other day. It's like, I thought back then, I thought women who were comfortable in their own skin, I thought they had
Mhm.
like let themselves go, but really it's letting go of the masks that we thought we needed to wear. So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. Just like, oh my gosh, like there's actually a point in my life where I am going to feel free of all the things feel shackle me down.
I feel like I can just feel that so deep in my heart, and
Mm.
I remember a time where, and even now when I see women in the clinic in their 20s, it's
Ugh.
as if they're chasing something and they
Yes.
just don't know what it is, and they feel like they just
Yeah.
don't have it. And
Hmm.
sometimes you feel like if you could look back at them or look back at yourself at 28
Yeah.
and be like, you don't have to chase it. Just be where you are and experience the moment. And it's right. It's the thing that our families have been telling us since we were like 10. Like,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
like
I know.
the Taylor Swift song, like, "Don't grow up too
Yeah.
fast." Like, Absolutely, but
Yeah.
also, like, look back and as you said, I love that, like, it's almost celebrating the milestones of life and saying, "Hey, guess what? We went through these trials and tribulations. We went through these things that we thought were gonna define us, and they
Yeah.
don't."
Yeah.
And, like, just let it go.
Yeah, I think aging is such an interesting thing because when I was
Uh-huh.
28, there was so much fear around having wrinkles or not having a
Yeah.
period or, all these things
Yeah.
that like I'm going
Yeah.
through right now,
All
right?
the why
Yeah.
don't I have boobs?
Oh, yes. Like this saggy skin. I have like
I
dimples on my thighs that didn't
Yeah,
exist back then. And that
totally.
younger version of me was like, I genuinely remember being so mortified of aging because I did not know what I was going to do when my body because that my identity was wrapped around that. When my body is not, is no longer this 28, 30-year-old perfect thing.
Yep.
Perfect, right? And
Oh,
what's
yeah.
interesting though, I like it's so beautiful how as you age, I don't know what
Mhm.
it is, but like just the mind shifts, the wisdom, all the things, somehow it's like a new lens is given to us every year where we
Yeah.
see the things that we once saw as curses and we actually embrace them as gifts. It's crazy. Like I
Yeah.
love it. I love that with age comes
Mhm.
wisdom and
Mhm.
it's like we had blinders on when we're younger and every year it's like a blinders removed if we allow it to be, right? I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of women, some in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are stuck
Mhm.
still trying to fulfill that version, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah. Would you agree if I said, Heidi's in her second act now, would you say that you feel like you're in your second act, or are you in your third act, or are you still in the first act?
Oh my gosh. See,
I know, it's kind of
I
a loaded question.
well, what I know this is crazy too because I don't know if it was because of how I was raised, like in a
Yeah.
very like religious culture.
Mhm.
There's two things. I don't want to say going against me because ultimately everything works out for us in the end. But at the
Sure.
time, and maybe in development wise, I had religious culture going against me, or that was a challenge, a stumbling block, a learning experience in the future.
Yeah.
I also had a very, very, very strict family and dad, right?
Mhm.
So there were parts of me that were very controlled. So it just led to an eating disorder and a lot of different things.
Yeah.
For that reason, I feel like I'm such a late bloomer in life. I feel like there's been far more than two acts for me. Really. I mean,
Yeah.
like I would say like I don't even hardly, Radhika, I don't hardly remember. I
Wow.
don't remember much of childhood. I don't remember that much.
Yeah.
I also don't remember very much of my first marriage. And so it's
Mhm.
almost like that was act 1, and then I
Uh-huh.
feel like maybe it's the multiple marriages for me, right? And
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
just feeling lost and stumbling around and trying to grab onto anything that would give me the love that I needed to find in myself. I would say
Yeah.
act 2 probably was my marriage with Chris when I met him. I had
Yeah.
2 kids, met him, and really realized that I was meant for more because I had this idea in my head that only certain people are meant for great things. And like, I always
Mhm.
thought, like someone like Chris, he's meant for something great. The people we see on TV, they're meant for things great. People running businesses, they're meant for things great. But
Mhm.
I was just meant to be a supporting role, or I was just meant to be uh, someone that's just mediocre or average or even below average because my sense of self worth was so low.
Yeah.
Watching Chris set his sight on something which
Yeah.
second husband, for anyone listening that doesn't know, he and I created a show, Extreme Weight Loss, on ABC
Yeah.
together, which went on for 6 full years. Watching him like say, "This is who I'm going to be," and then like literally not caring what anyone said and stepping into that. There was so much of an example there for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, truly, Walt Disney's "If you can dream it, you can do it" became like
Yeah.
I like saw living examples of a man who would dream something and do it. And so that kind of had me be like, oh my gosh, if he can do that, what am I capable of doing?
Mhm.
So I'd say
Mhm.
that was act 2. And for a lot of people, I think that's my 1 and 2, I think are a lot of people's act 1, right? Like the blinders just
Yeah.
started to come off.
Mhm.
I don't feel like until I went through like the depths of my own despair and hell of anxiety and depression, and having chased so much and looked the way I wanted to look and achieved a pro card and achieved certain financial goals that I had and achieved certain business things, having achieved things, chasing, I looked, different than I look
Yeah.
now. I had more muscle. I wore a lot of makeup. I was always dressed to impress, and I cared about who I was impressing. Um,
Yeah.
when I had achieved those things and I realized I still was unhappy,
Yeah.
that was, and it just, a snowball of things led to panic attacks and anxiety and depression. And
Yeah.
this was in the middle of 2022. I don't feel like my w- best act, and I'm going to say third, started
Yeah.
until that. And that was also the era where my then partner had passed away. And
Yep.
it was just like, there's this saying that I heard on Instagram once. It says, the universe, and you can replace it with God or whatever, but the
Yeah.
universe will continue to remove things from your life that you believe your value is in until
Mhm.
you realize it's not there. And I feel like God just continued to remove. It was like, "Oh, you think your value's in this? I'm gonna take it away. You think your value's in your sexuality? I'm gonna take away your libido. You think your value's in this business?
Your
I'm gonna
looks,
make it
your
cra"
yeah.
Yeah. And your
Yeah.
partner, it was just like thing after thing after thing was taken away. And so like, the more I had, the less I felt like I actually had. Um,
Mhm.
and so yeah, that was a reset. I think sometimes we have to hit the bottom
Yeah.
to climb our way, to like a meaningful top. So now I'm in my
So
third act.
yeah, but
Yes.
I think there's so much there that you said that so many people can relate to, and even from, like, a women's health perspective, like,
Mm,
I see women through different transitions in their life. I also grew up in
yeah,
extremely stringent home with
yeah.
very strong cultural beliefs and barriers, and some of it was, like, perfectionism, right?
Yeah.
Like, or protectionism, I should say.
Mm,
Protectionism, which led to that feeling of needing to be perfect.
mm,
And I don't know if you can relate, but I felt like in the beginning, in our first acts, that's what drove us.
yeah.
That's what gave us the ambition to continue to work towards what we think we wanted. So for you, it's almost, I was going to almost ask you about what it was like before you had the public recognition, what you believed success, beauty, and achievement were. But you just told
Yes.
us like everything you thought was true was not really what was what you really wanted because as you said God or the universe was taking it away from you.
Mhm.
That's huge to be
Yeah.
able to look at it and say like I thought I wanted this. I thought this is where I should be and
Yeah.
it's just going to be taken away from me. Like that is huge.
Mm,
So when you look at strength from when you defined strength in that first and second act into your 20s
yep.
and then early 30s, early to mid 30s, what does that look like now different? Because, you know, many people know you from the show. Many people know you that, in terms of fitness and physical strength and the way that
Mhm.
looked. But how did that change from act 2 to act 3?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and you said something too that made me really think, because you said those earlier years, it was like that protectionism and the perfectionism. It really
Yeah.
did. Like, I like sometimes joke, I'm like, man, if I was not a perpetual pleaser, people pleaser, if I was not a
Yeah.
perfectionist, if I like wasn't driven by all the wrong, I'm going to say wrong things, but I really
No,
don't think there's
that's
any right or
fair.
wrong. But
Yeah.
there's no way I would have ever built my life or achieved. And I'm not saying, I mean, I still have a ways to go, but I
Sure.
wouldn't be where I'm at if those like more toxic motivations had never existed, I wouldn't have ever
No.
gotten to where I am. But yeah,
No.
that strength was definitely fueled by things that I now know are not healthy for me. I also think this is just how we're created as humans. It's like I think we all have to have those like more, I'm going to say, toxic drives from the
Or
beginning to
we
get
have to
us to
make
where
the
we are.
mistakes, right?
We
Like
do.
we have
We
to
do.
we have to fall on our
Yeah.
face in
Yeah.
order to be like, "Okay, what are we gonna do now?" And I mean, I think some people will look at it like, "Oh, Heidi
Yeah.
Powell, she is in the spotlight. Like what got her there and what, you
Mm.
know, and I almost from what I'm hearing from you, like that spotlight was great in terms of it gave you the belief in yourself, but
Yeah.
it didn't give you it was external validation. It didn't do anything for internal validation for you.
No, it did not. No. Well, and what also is funny too, because the idea that like there was a spotlight that I climbed toward. Ryan always jokes, and Ryan's the guy he's my boyfriend. He's so great. You met
He's
him right
such a
before
sweet,
that.
oh, right. I was like, I
I
can't wait
love
to meet Ryan.
him.
He's such a
I-
sweetheart. He's just so
oh,
sweet. He's like,
he's
"Oh, can
so
I be on the
sweet.
computer here?" I'm like,
I
"Really?"
know. He's so great. He loves me so much.
And I
But
said to you, he fits into your
he
world,
does.
which I think is so
Yeah.
important because so many times women feel like we have to change ourselves to
Yep.
fit into our partner's world. Like, no,
Yeah.
I
No,
digress, but he fits into your world.
he really does. And I think like even this relationship, it's the healthiest relationship I've ever had in my life by a
Yeah.
long shot. But the reality is, and I'm digressing, but I'll kind of loop it
That's
around. The
okay. It
reality is,
works.
we can only like I could never have attracted a love that is
Mhm,
healthy like this from a
mhm.
man until I loved myself in a healthy way. I just could not have.
Mhm.
So the fact that yeah, it took me a lot of work to get to where I'm at right now. But one of the things Ryan always jokes about, because we were talking about the spotlight, he always jokes that I just stumble, like I spent my entire life stumbling up staircases. And that's what happens. I'm not kidding you. So like
Yeah.
even me landing on a TV show,
Mhm.
literally I just landed on a TV show. It is like some I don't even know what's happening in my life, but I like usually am just someone who
Okay.
walks in, and if an opportunity is there, I'm like, hell yes. That's
Yeah.
literally what it is. But like
Yeah.
I never tried for that because I never believed I could. Even that
Yeah.
was like Chris doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to like fix. I'm just a fixer, right? So let me fix,
Yeah.
let me help, let me support. And then it was like, oh, let's have you come on camera. And I'm like, deer in the headlights. I
What?
don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so scary for me.
Yeah.
But just, I think what got me to that place of a spotlight
Mhm.
was me not being able to say no. Truly, like another
Yeah.
thing that I've had to learn to say no to people. But thank God I didn't know how to say no in earlier
Yeah.
years of my life because that
Yeah.
lack of boundaries, that lack of awareness, that lack of like self development actually put me in a
Mm.
situation where I stumbled up a staircase and built a
Mhm.
brand that came with a
Yeah.
spotlight. So I don't think I ever really, back to like the self worth, I don't
Yeah.
think I ever thought having a brand would give me self worth. I think I just,
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it was the work that was happening off camera. It had nothing to do with my brand, had nothing to do with the followers. I guilty. It's hard at times, especially historically, to not get caught up in what people
Yeah.
online think of you or am I getting enough likes. But the reality is that the things in my life that created sense of self were actually after the show had ended, completely after the show had ended. In
Mhm.
fact, me being on camera and going through all 5 seasons of extreme weight loss, 6 years, 5 full, whatever, because it's a full year every year. We were in the middle of shooting season 6 where it was canceled. There was such an immense amount of imposter syndrome. Like I didn't,
Yeah.
people would talk about it. I didn't
Yeah.
even know what imposter syndrome was because I was swimming in an ocean of imposter syndrome. I didn't even understand it because that's all in hindsight, I
Yeah.
felt so much like I didn't believe or I didn't earn or I had this like self-conscious feeling of, are people going to think I'm riding Chris's coattails because I didn't create this? I like
Sure.
literally landed in this room. And this is their
Yeah.
God's like, here, you're on camera now. And so
Yeah.
for me, any sense of self was actually built after that. It was like
Yeah.
I spent my life doing everything else for everyone else, like many women do. And many
Yep.
people listening, we spend our whole life feeling like they are the ones who are worthy of accomplishment. They are the ones who are worthy to set goals. I'm just someone to help, here to help them reach their goals. But when after the show, signing up for my first bodybuilding competition, which
Is
I
that
didn't
when
even
you
want
did
to
it?
do
So it was
after
after. Okay, okay.
after the show. Yeah. That
Yeah.
for me, it was, and I only did it because I couldn't say no. Someone on the show at a season finale in season 5 had challenged me and Chris to do it. But not being able to say no and saying yes to something that terrified me and then really
Mhm.
sucking at it. I did really bad. And I had so much
Mhm.
embarrassment and like more imposter syndrome and all of the
Yep.
things that I ended up deciding to upset some people in my close proximity and put in
Mhm.
the work on me, which that when everyone around you is used to you living for them, when
Mhm.
you start living a little bit for you, you start carving out that time, it pisses people off. But
Yeah.
what came from that, it was like the more I focused on myself, granted, it was still only 5 to 10% of the time, right? A little bit of
Yeah.
the time I'd focus on me. It was like I started seeing what I was capable of. I started seeing
Yeah.
it wasn't even about my body. I remember finally, after 2.5 years, getting my pro card in bikini,
Yeah.
and being it had nothing to do with how I looked, and it had everything to do with the fact that I chose me even when it made someone else mad, because it did. It made some people mad. It ruined some relationships.
Yeah.
But it actually created a person that I'm like, man, I can set a goal and I can achieve it. So if I can do this for me, what else can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of like that one thing. Sometimes all we need is one win, and
Mhm.
that one win is what then gives us permission to go for a second and a third and a fourth. And every time we do something like that, we put ourselves first, we're reinforcing our value. And,
Mhm.
like that's creating act two or whatever act we're going into.
It almost sounds like it wasn't until so, you really outlined something really important. You were saying when you were doing the show, it
Hmm.
was almost perceived as if this was Chris's show and it's almost like you were the woman behind the man, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt
Heidi
like
is the
I
woman,
was.
right. And then it wasn't would you agree that you had a perceived value of self-worth in yourself when you were able to say no during, the bikini competitions and getting your pro card, and also actually saying, like, "I'm worthy of actual greatness. I
Hmm.
don't have to be the supporting actor or the supporting role. I actually think that I can do this on my own, and I can still say no."
Yeah, that's actually when it started for me. I will say I feel like I traveled such a long path of
Yeah, because that was what,
figuring out.
30s, right? That was 30s for
Yeah,
you, right?
yeah. That was
Yeah.
with the show ended 11 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So you're
So
33?
32. I was
32? Yeah.
32 then, yeah. 32, 33.
Yeah.
Um but then I still like there it's all conditioning from when we're a kid. There was still a part of me
Sure.
that said I couldn't, like, yes, I'm starting to see the power that I have. It
Yep.
did kind of rock the boat with the dynamic because we had a dynamic is created, and
Mhm.
it worked until like something shifts in that dynamic and then it doesn't work. It's like
Yep.
when we all have our roles in a relationship. I even after my divorce with Chris happened about 5 years after the show ended.
Okay.
And uh, even what's interesting is I jumped into a relationship with Dave
Yep.
Hollis.
Yep.
And yeah, anyone listening, I'm sure I have nice haters who follow me everywhere. You're all
It's
right.
fine.
It was definite codependence. You're not wrong. Everyone's right, right? Like, I mean, I'm not blind. I definitely see and I saw it then.
Okay,
But
the
jumping
haters are
into,
needed, the
yeah,
haters are needed to some
they,
extent too, it's
they
fine.
are, and actually
Fair.
they shine a lot of truth a lot of times, to be honest,
It's
and
fine.
sometimes
Yeah,
it's the truth we don't wanna look at, and
but
that
we
was
have to.
probably a
Yeah.
truth I didn't wanna look at then, but the reality is I jumped into a relationship that was, it put me in a position again. I was starting to kind of not put me in a position, I was beginning to see my worth, and
Mhm.
also because Dave had such a strong online presence, what
Oh,
I was
yeah.
building at the time, there was still that internal dialogue that was like, oh, I cannot do I'm not capable of doing things alone. I'm not strong enough. I can
Yep.
only do great things if, my dad is my dad. I can only do great things if Chris is,
Chris.
I can only do great. Yes, I created the challenges. I did all the behind the scenes stuff. And still, like having Dave by my side, he was like a security blankie the whole time. So I felt like I could only do things if I have a strong man next to me. And
Mhm.
this has been one of my biggest areas of growth. And I mean, I hate that like Dave passed away. Like one of my biggest challenges for many reasons. I hate, he was my best friend. But after he passed, I had for about a year, a good year, year and
Mhm.
a half. which is why
Mhm.
I did not go back to work for about 2 years.
I
There
remember
was
you told
this
me that.
internal dialogue that would say, "You are not capable without a man leading you. You're not
Mhm.
capable without a man leading you," which led me to another relationship,
Yeah.
codependency, and in that, it was like I was trying to have this man lead me, and until
Mhm.
it just was so unhealthy and toxic that not him, but the relationship, the dynamic,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, so it was like I was having to go through a lot of pain and hell to
Yeah.
realize that I don't need a man to lead anything work-wise. I am, like, capable myself, and when I finally was at a point is, like, where a healthy partner
Yeah.
came to me, right?
Right. Like the universe.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was gonna my question and you answered it was like,
Yeah.
what did you have to unlearn? And it's
Mm.
almost like you had to unlearn from childhood. And
Yeah.
because we were in that protective environment where we always had someone who was there for us to protect us, which is such a gift that I
I
think we
know.
take for granted sometimes. But at the same time, it makes us feel like we can't do it without that protection. And then you have to learn that that protection is actually just additive. It's not
Mm.
that you need it.
Yeah.
It adds to who you are. It doesn't make you who you are, which I think that that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, and sometimes with my kids, I wonder if you ever think this. Sometimes I'm like, am I like protecting them and giving too much to where they're going to have a really hard time when they leave the house like I did? Cuz you're
Yeah.
right. It's like
Yeah.
there is this I my dad and mom provided a really great stable financial life for me. Whether they had money or
Yeah.
not, they never filled me in that there were issues, so I kind
Yeah.
of yeah, and my dad was very masculine and dominant, and so it was kinda like I feel like and my dad passed away 15 years ago. I
Yeah.
probably was always trying to search for the dad to my mom,
Mhm.
right? Because my mom and
Yep.
dad were this really cute little power couple. I think we have a
Yeah.
it's childhood. It does a number on us.
Oh, and I mean, it's funny how it comes up even now in my marriage. There are certain things that happen to both of us throughout our lives. And sometimes I think we step into those roles with the expectation based on what we saw in childhood. And we feel like
Yes.
we have to either create it or not create it, right? Depending on
Yes.
what your experience was. So, what
I
are some of the beliefs that you held true about relationships, body image, and self worth in your 30s
Mhm.
that you don't now? And why has it changed?
Gosh. So what are the beliefs that I had when I was younger that I don't have now? Well, I think just
Yeah, about
about body image.
relationships,
Yeah.
body image, self worth.
Well, relationship is a really easy one. I think some of the beliefs that I had younger about relationships were that I,
Hmm.
I had two parents who never fought in front of me. Never.
Yeah.
Never. They were
Well,
married the entire time my dad was alive, right? Until he died. And my dad always was grabbing my mom's butt, loving on her. They were so cute together. So all I sometimes I'm like, "Mom, you guys did a massive disservice to me because
yeah.
I
Okay, I was
genuinely."
just about to ask you, but I was gonna
Yeah.
say, like, this is a great question because I
Oh,
my husband had a very different experience than me, and
okay.
I wanna know, what do you think about the home that is portrayed as everything is, for lack of a better word,
Perfect?
I don't wanna use this word, yes, perfect all the time. What do you think about it? And
It
how do you
doesn't
impose this onto
no.
your life and your kids now?
My kids listen,
Mhm.
I do understand that there is a line, right, where kids
Yeah.
should not be burdened. They need to be kids. And so but that line, ig
What do you think that
I
line
should
is?
well my kids know a lot. My kids
Yeah.
know a lot, and I've had quite a rocky road, but I decided to tell my kids a lot
Mhm.
because I don't want them to be a little bit lost. Like I was
Mhm.
lost. I thought every partnership looked like my mom and dad's. I thought every
Mhm.
man needed to be Prince Charming in my life the way that my dad appeared to be for my mom, and probably was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's her story, but
Yeah.
I also think that there's a line, right? It's like when my two older kids, gosh, I mean, what like a gift and like a hard thing. My kids came in two different waves. So I had my first two kids in my first marriage. Maddox and
Mhm.
Marley, and my
Mhm.
second two in my second marriage. And I feel like those groups got to
Mhm.
totally different moms. And I
Mhm.
feel like I got to learn a lot about what I did wrong with Maddox and Marley and change it on Cash and Ruby. And I feel like Maddox and Mars, they saw too much, they knew too much. It's that parentification, we
Yeah.
sometimes put too much on our kids. And so it is like Kate with Cash and Ruby, it's been like, how do I make sure they understand that life is not perfect and it's
Mhm.
beautiful that way? How do I tell them the things that I need to tell them without making it their responsibility, right?
Yep.
And without giving them details that their little brains are not capable of understanding, because that's been a tough thing. It's like
Yeah.
anytime a child is given too much information and their brain doesn't understand adult things,
Yeah.
it can cause some serious turmoil in their heads.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know what? I say all this, and I'm like, I'm probably doing all of it wrong, but
What
we're
is
doing
right?
it.
Well,
I know.
we've also said what is right and what is wrong. Like, I mean, who
Yeah,
is to define as I mean, and I will so quickly said, I said first and second, and you're
yeah,
like, no, no, I'm on my third. And
yeah,
truly, as we reinvent ourselves, and I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, what does reinvention look like? And I mean, so pivoting into parenting a little bit, let's
yeah,
transition into talking about like from being in the spotlight, your
yeah,
kids were pretty much all raised in that situation in the hyper curated world that we're all
yeah.
living in, and it's filtered and it's experiences and things like that. And your life still very much plays into that, right? To some
It
extent. Not
does.
like
Yeah,
not necessarily the hyper filtered, because you are really good about like, this
I'm
is what
very
I'm doing.
public.
You're
Yes,
very public. Yeah, you're like, hey, we're sitting home in our pajamas making
yeah,
pancakes. Like, it's amazing. Like, this is what we're doing. We're having a dance party, like with pizza
yes,
and watching Stranger Things. Like, I love it. I mean,
yeah.
I
I'm
want it.
yelling at my kids. This is what I'm
Yes.
doing.
Yes, yes, yes. But how are you finding raising kids in this
Mm.
and your kids are a little older now. I don't know how Ruby's your youngest, right?
She's 12. So youngest is
Yeah.
12, oldest is 21.
And
They've all
so
been raised very much in it.
yeah, in it. And so they've seen physically strong
Mm,
mom. You're still physically
mhm.
strong, but when that was kind of the big focus, right?
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
also the growth phase of what the achievement looked like in your 30s, and that looks very different than
Mhm.
what growth looks like in your 40s. How do you kind of help them understand the idea of strength, emotional resilience, and the idea of like resilience rather than perfection right now
Yeah.
in this kind of day and age?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I I think they've been lucky to have a mom who does kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, right? For
Mhm.
them. And I think a lot of they've I feel like sometimes we're all babies raising babies. And so
Yeah.
it's like I think strength was very physical, not just for me, but for my then husband and for the kids. Like everything was very physical. It was like what you eat, how you exercise, all of these things were
Mhm.
very important when the kids were younger. Having to and also getting to, because I think it's a double-edged thing, having to and getting to see me go through hardship and break down,
Mhm.
has allowed them to see that, like, what we thought health was or what we thought strength was is actually
Mhm.
so much bigger and so much deeper.
Mhm.
Um, Also, I think it's been really great for them to those 3 years that I took off, I say off very loosely, but the
Yeah.
3 years where I backed off quite a bit,
Mhm.
I think was really, really important for them, and it was important for me. It was important for me for them, um, because it gave us all the ability to really connect. It gave me a chance to kind of see them in a way that I could not have seen them before. And
Yeah.
also them to experience their mom in a way that like they didn't get to experience me prior. And so it like
Yeah.
I think it's something that's naturally shifted and grown as they've seen life shift and grow. Now, one thing I will say to the public, the idea of like having kids raised in public. Man, I think I feel like if I had some of the knowledge
Mhm.
now and
Mhm.
experience now
Yeah.
back then, I probably would have done a lot of it different, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think I really understood what a public life
Can you
was
say
back
more?
then.
Can you say more about that? What would you do?
Yeah.
And it's not I'm not taking it from a regret
No.
lens at all. Just
Yeah.
if you were
Yeah.
to look in and say, "Hey," like, because so many people, we talk about the Instagram world, we talk about the TikTok world,
Yeah.
are like there's influencers and there's doctors on Instagram, and it's like people are always like, "Well, we wanna see the audience
Yep.
and the public and see what you're doing in your life." And it's interesting for you to be able to look back to see, "Hey, look, I was in the spotlight. This like, I
Yeah.
raised my kids in the spotlight." So, yeah.
So I think for me, when I never had an Instagram or a Facebook until I was on TV. I
Yep.
never had a Facebook before. I was a very private person, which no one would ever know looking at me now. Um,
Yeah.
and so getting an Instagram and getting a Facebook and posting to it I never ever could really it became a journal very quickly because of how my family dynamic was. It was like
Sure.
a family journal, and at the end of the day I post everything my family did that entire day. Not really being able to conceptualize the number of people following. Like that did never really make sense to me. And so my following grew bigger and bigger as I was
Yeah.
posting this journal, which I did more for me than for anyone. I loved it. Like I loved at the end of it, I would sit there in my chair at 1 a.m. after the kids went to bed and Chris went to bed, and I would post things, and the audience loved it. But more than anything, it felt like I would sit there crying like about the
Sure.
experiences that we had that day. I loved it. Um,
Yeah.
But I don't think, and my kids were younger. So Ruby and Cash were born in the spotlight.
Sure.
Maddox and Marley were like 3 and 4, maybe 4, very young when it all started.
Yeah.
And so I it wasn't until later years. So when my kids started entering junior high and high school, and probably not until my first and second were well into high school, I
Yeah.
don't think I understood what I mean, Maddox, my son, still sometimes he'll call me from New York and be like, "Mom," like I did this LOVE trend. Did you see that
Yeah,
on
yeah, I did.
Instagram?
That was really cute. I thought that was so cute. I did. I thought it was adorable. I thought it was
Yeah, it
great.
was. But there were certain like hand gestures in that Maddox
No.
would call me.
Yeah, I did. Okay, sure. I saw those too. If you're listening and you haven't seen it, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I was kind of like, "Oh, okay, yeah, here we go." They love each other.
Oh, Maddox.
But at
I
the
didn't
same
even know
time,
what
it
was
was
going on. I'm like,
so
what is that? It was
yeah,
very
but it
innocent,
was
right?
so
But
naive. It was yeah, like you weren't doing it from any yeah, no,
no, no.
no,
But Maddox
no.
called me from New Jersey, and he's like, "Mom, can you like hold off posting this stuff until I'm done with my mission?" And I'm So every
This is
now and
healthy,
then,
Maddox, it's
yes,
healthy.
every now and then I get the kids being like, "Mom, wait, don't post that." So, but
No.
really, it has for a couple of my kids, some of the things, like even them being present online, at
Yeah,
some point, it's created hardship for them in school. And so we've had to like completely be like, I never even thought of asking permission because in my mind,
yeah.
again, I didn't even think, but like realizing, oh my gosh, a kid has to say yes, please
Mhm.
post me. And even at that, it's like, does a child even fully understand what they're saying yes to when they're younger?
Yeah.
And so that has been a thing that I've gone back and forth with, and I have a lot of conversations with them about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a part of me, I do wish, there was maybe less focus on that at the beginning
Mhm.
because I probably just would have shifted a little different. And I think it would have made it easier for them. But it kind of goes back to every single thing that we go through that is hard
Yeah.
is actually an opportunity for growth. It's a
Mhm.
place where we can find strength, where we can create
Mhm.
strength. And so my kids they have thicker skin than most kids their age. I'll tell you that. Like
Sure.
they are
Yeah.
fully aware of the hate communities and they don't really give a rat's a. They really don't. And
Yeah.
it's good
Which is
because
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, I think
It's almost like
they're
yeah.
they're going to be stronger and better suited to handle things in the real world that a lot of people never have to walk through.
I think it's interesting because you can almost circle back to what we kind of shared as our childhood, where both of us I think our parents did a really good job of sheltering us from the
Mm,
things that were scary. And
mhm.
what you're doing and as you said, like, maybe you felt like, you might have put a few more guardrails in place, but at the
Yeah.
same time, you're giving them emotional resilience in their
Thank you.
teens and in their early 20s that when you and me would have been, like, 24 coming out and being like, "What? What? wait.
That's exactly what it was.
And it was
Yeah.
trial by fire, right? It's like, and I
Yeah.
remember when I started traveling during my rotations in my mid to late 20s, and I was like, the world is different than I
I
anticipated. And
I
so
know.
I don't feel bad about the fact that my parents did have those guardrails it because
Yeah.
they were doing the best they could at the time that they understood. And they did protect me and allow me to flourish very safely, which is
Yeah.
wonderful. And also, I think you can do it in such a way, like you said, like making sure that they understand that the world is different than we may perceive or the opportunities that we're given, and we can give them resilience. And I mean, even what you did with Marley, and I know it was cut short, but she went to Thailand last
Yeah.
year, right? And she was going to be there for an extended period of time. And I was just thinking, I'm like, and I told my husband when she did that, I was like, oh my gosh, Heidi is sending one of her middle kids to Thailand. Like, I can't imagine. I'm like, I could have never do that. But I think
Yeah.
again, you were showing her what life is in such a way that you can't learn from just being in our homes, our four walls.
Yeah, I think we all become the parents we wish we would have had, is really what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I not to say I am so grateful for my parents, but we become
Same.
the parents that we become the good parts of who our parents were to us, plus the
Yeah.
parts that we wish would have been different. Like, and for me,
Yeah.
leaving my house and having that act one, which felt like it was in pre-life still. I feel like I didn't start living until far later than the average person. And
Okay.
so for me, yeah, like allowing my kids and almost forcing them to do something outside of the home was really important because
Yeah.
I had parents who never wanted me to leave, right? They were
Same.
like, and not only that, but sometimes I don't know that they realize this, but it was like my dad, it was like you can't do this without me. You don't have the funds. You don't have the resources. So that like internal dialogue of well, there you go. I just answered that conversation we were saying earlier. Why do I think I needed a man? Because
Yeah.
it was very much instilled that like I'm the one who provides. You can't
Yep.
go off to college somewhere else. And there
Yep.
is a part of me that is very much an I'll show you. And so when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like, I'll show you and I'll figure it out. But I like my kids, it was so hard to get Marley to leave. It was I had to make it mandatory that I like had to do this like love and logic thing and be like, okay, you're either going to go to Thailand or you're going to go on a mission or you don't get to access your college funds. I had to like
Yep.
say there are two options, a church mission or Thailand, or you don't access this money that I set aside for you, right? For
Right.
college. And
Right.
for her, it was a lot of breakdowns in communication that we had to have because
Hmm.
she felt like I was kicking her out. Like she felt like I didn't love her, which is probably something that she's going to take to therapy someday, right? And she probably was taking
We
it to
all need
therapy.
something to
Yeah,
take to
yeah, we
therapy.
do. Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't matter how much I tell her. It like she needed to kind of experience it on her own, but I would say Mars, this is not because I don't love you and I don't want you. It's because I can see beyond 18. I can see beyond
Hmm.
19. And I'm not saying my way is your way, but one
Yeah.
of the things I wish I had someone kicking me out into the real world with training wheels and saying, experience it, understand what's outside of the walls of our home, understand what's outside of our state, understand what's outside of our country,
Yeah.
because it was such a rough learning experience. It took me so
It
long.
was.
I fell into too many vices. I had an eating disorder. It was just all of these things were
Yeah.
really hard because
Yeah.
I needed coping mechanisms to deal with
Yeah.
the difficulty. So yeah, that was hard.
Yeah.
Also hard. Marley's still in my house, right? Like she came back from Thailand
Yeah.
and that it's like there's a side of me that just wants to coddle and provide and give
Keep
her
her. You want to
everything.
keep her. Yeah. You want to
And
keep
that's
her home because
easier.
she's,
That's
yeah,
yes.
totally.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's easier. But there's also this very realist side of me that's like the greatest things in my life happened when I like had to fall, right? And so it's like
Hmm. And
now
figure it
it's
out on your
figuring
own.
yeah. Yeah. Now I'm like figuring out, okay, if you're going to stay here, you pay $300 a month in rent, you pay $200 a month for your car, you pay
Yeah.
your phone payment. So it's like you have to
Yeah.
have a full time job. And when these things aren't met, you go find somewhere else. Well, what if
Hmm.
I don't have a job? I'm like, you got to figure it out.
Then you have to figure
You
it
know,
out. Right.
and it is, yeah, it's tough love, but it's also the stuff I wish I had, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're gonna pivot one more time, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna
Pivot. All the pivots. I
pivot.
love
Yes,
that.
all the pivots. I love it. But this is what we wanted. I wanted it to be like all the
Yep.
things. So
Yes.
you took a very and I loved that you brought this up already because I was gonna bring it up too. Again, when we met last year, I want to say it was like spring or summertime, and
Yeah.
you had pretty much said you had gotten, and it was very inspiring to me. You were like, look, I sent everyone away. I didn't have anyone taking care of my home, helping me in the home. Nobody was taking care of my kids. And this was after Dave. And it was
Yeah.
very much a healing for you, but also like, wait, I need a minute. I need to
Yeah.
regroup. I need to refocus. You were dealing with some anxiety, depression, like you talked about. And then it's like, I almost look at you like you went into a cocoon
I
and now you're
did.
emerging as a butterfly. No kidding. And even as I've talked to you and we've talked about what you're doing and all the things you imagine and the beautiful, it's amazing. I
Mm,
can see the transformation even in the short period of
mm,
time that we've known
thank
each other.
you.
And I want to say, like, especially, and I know you have this amazing community of women who you coach and that you continue to grow. What do you tell them about like body image and feeling in your 40s? Because I've spoken about this. I've made reels on this. I've talked to people in my community about this. I
Mm.
talk to patients about this all day. I am so like, it kind of almost makes me uncomfortable in my stomach. The idea of reverse aging. That's the word.
Yeah. Yes. I don't like the word
Oh my
anti-aging.
God.
I don't like that.
Yeah, and reverse aging, like, well, I don't wanna be 32
No.
again. I really like 42. I
Yes.
feel good at 42. Like, there's and so how do you talk to people about the self-talk and the body image and embracing, like, functionality of our bodies over
Mm.
comparison and aesthetics?
Well, I mean, you just the last word, second to last word that you said, comparison is actually, I believe, why most people struggle with body image issues. Because if we didn't have
Yeah.
something to compare it to, if we
Yeah.
weren't looking at what is out there or what is getting the most likes or whatever, if we didn't
Yeah.
have the compare, like, and if you think about it, when we grew up, I mean, we already there were body image issues, but when we grew up, the only people we had to compare ourselves with were the people like on our street, right?
Mhm.
We didn't have internet. We
Nope.
didn't have social media. We didn't
Nope.
have all
We had People
AI.
magazine. We had People magazine.
Yes,
That was
we
about
did.
That's it. That's
And
all we had.
that's truly what I would compare myself to. And I cannot imagine growing up younger in a day and
Uh-huh.
age where comparison is so. I mean, it, and not only do we have online and social media, but we have AI. And these
Yeah.
AI, like there are so many AI
It's
accounts
terrifying.
now where the
Mhm.
women are stunningly perfect. And you, like, I could show you one and you wouldn't even know that it's AI. They're like
Mhm.
doing trends and it's so like the bar that we're comparing ourselves to is so unrealistic. And
Uh-huh.
so like for me, one of the greatest things I did was disconnect. And I think for
Yeah.
anyone who is struggling with body image issues, it's number one, disconnect, get away, anywhere you touch in your life where you feel like you are leaving depleted or it's an energy vampire, like you don't feel fulfilled, you don't feel full,
I
like,
love
cut
that
it out for a
energy
while. Yeah.
vampire.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, and
Yeah.
for me, the energy vampires are the things that make me feel like they're people who suck the energy out of me, and also the things that make me feel less than valuable. Like if you leave a
Mhm.
conversation with someone, no matter how amazing she is, if for some reason, even if it's me, if you're listening to this podcast right now and someone listening is like, I have a hard time listening to Heidi because I don't feel like I can achieve her level. Don't listen to me. You know, like
Yeah.
I am the biggest
Yeah.
proponent of walk away from anything that makes you feel like you are not enough. You like your energy. I don't remember where I heard it, but it's so sacred. You only have so much of it. You have to absolutely protect what energy you have. So, number one, walk away. The next thing I would say is if you don't have a purpose in life, if you're
Yeah.
not working to achieve or help or pay it forward in some way,
Yeah.
and I'll speak for myself, if I don't have a purpose, because I went through a disconnection period, which was
Yep.
amazing. I needed it.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
I needed it too because hormonally, my body was shifting. And I can't
Yeah.
imagine if I was more in the spotlight during that time. But then there came a point where I was like, I need something more
Mhm.
than I need to feel like I'm contributing. I need to feel like I'm giving to someone else. I need to feel like I'm paying it forward. When we
Yeah.
are, one of my favorite sayings is find yourself by losing yourself in the service of others. And so it's
Yeah.
like, if there's so much consumption with how you look, maybe
Mhm.
you need to get out of your head for a minute and
Yeah.
go pour into someone else, pour
Yeah.
into helping someone else's life grow, pour into yourself in way of educating yourself and maybe some therapy and some work, but also pour into others and make an
Yeah.
impact, I think is the best way to say it. But yeah, body image is a really difficult thing, especially because I have daughters. And so
Yes.
everything I do, I've tried inside of my challenges that I do, I
Mhm.
do not reward based on, we talk about pounds lost sometimes, right?
Yep.
Not always,
Yep.
but
Yep.
pounds lost, they're just quantitative evidence and proof that the gravitational pull on the earth is reducing, right? You're like,
Yeah,
that's all
yeah.
it is. It's
Yep.
proof that the energy we are putting in is actually working. But the reality is, the real things are the NSVs, the non-scale victories. And
Yep.
that's what we praise people on. What non-scale victories do we have? Maybe do you have more energy when you're playing with your kids? You could look the same and you could literally weigh the same, but you do one workout and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, damn, I look good. Isn't that crazy? It's like one NSV, one workout completed, and suddenly how we perceive ourselves is so different. So, like, what are some non scale victories that you
Yeah.
can focus on that have nothing to do with how our body looks, but have
Mhm.
everything to do with who we are
Yeah.
and how we're progressing? That's been a game changer.
I truly think like that's the liquid gold of what
Mm.
literally. And I just it's funny, I just did a reel yesterday and it
Yeah.
really talked about me having joy in my
Mm.
job. And I was like, it's not even about the job. You said it so importantly.
Mm.
Find something that lights you up
Yeah.
in whatever way. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Outside of your physical aspects, and
Mhm.
also find a way to serve others. Finding a way to serve others somehow just gives back to yourself. It
It
doesn't matter
does.
what it is. Like, you can go take care at your warming shelter. You can go volunteer in your kid's school. You can
Yeah.
go to the library. You can go lead Tai Chi or work in a Tai Chi work with someone who can't
Mhm.
can't do it and just help them through it. And
Yeah.
somehow that is, as you said, a non-scale victory or something to joy, and that's what I love about your group too. It really does focus on, like, that internal validation and the
Thank you.
internal joy, not about the external. I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. I'm going to add one more thing, not to keep talking. Sorry, you're probably
You
like, we're
can
done.
always keep
Well,
talking.
I think one more thing that's really important in this realm, and it's funny because as you're talking, I'm like, man, this has just become such a part of my life that I sometimes forget the
Mhm,
importance of it. Now, I'm not perfect at it because we're never perfect at anything, right? But the idea of having like integrity is so important. So if there's anyone
mhm,
listening to this who's like, and that this even plays into body image because it will pull focus off of body image when we realize that our value, our self-worth, our dignity that we have really is so directly connected to
mhm,
the integrity that we have with ourselves. Like, do
mhm,
we do what we say we're going to do? Not
mhm,
just to everybody else, but do we do what we say we're going to do to ourselves? Like, are we willing to make ourselves enough of a priority that we become a yes, even if it means telling other people no? Like when you
no,
tell yourself, you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. to get a workout in, do you do it
mhm,
or not? When you tell
mhm,
yourself you're going to, 2012 is going to be your year, do you make that your year or do you not? Or are
mhm,
we full of so many broken promises? Which
mhm,
those broken promises lead to, I mean, it's broken integrity, really,
mhm.
which integrity is connected to love and dignity for ourselves. So
Self-worth,
yes,
trusting yourself,
yes,
all
like
of it.
is your word valuable when you say
Yep,
something and when you speak it? Do you trust yourself enough? Do you have that relationship with
yep,
yourself that you know that like I'm actually going to accomplish that? Like that for me, I think that's probably been maybe one of the biggest things in my life. And
yeah,
for the women in our group too, it is
yeah,
the biggest thing. And understanding that you don't have to be able to say you're going to do these huge things right off the bat and fulfill. No, it's like make it so simple. Like the way to like create integrity and love, self-love with yourself is starting so small. It's like, what is one thing you can do every single day? Like what's one small commitment or power promise that is so stupidly simple, you know you're not going to fail. Just make that commitment and follow through every day and see like the momentum that's built.
Yeah.
That right there, you're going to look better in the mirror, right? You're going to
Yeah.
focus less on your body image.
Yep.
The strength and the worth that you will have will far exceed anything that you're worried about regarding how you look.
And I think that even just going back to like achieving things and not even like scale, but in life,
Mm.
when you live in that integrity, it'll just like logarithmically, the universe, as you said,
Yes.
the universe will take away what doesn't serve you
Yeah.
and bring to you what serves you. It'll bring to you your people. It'll bring to you your
Yep.
opportunities.
Yep.
It'll bring, and it's funny because my ending question was going to be, and I almost feel like you answered it without me even asking, which I absolutely love. I love it. I was going to say, you know, in the theme of Women's History Month, redefining strength, but I almost feel like, and as a side, my word of the year is authenticity, which I think is
Oh, I
so
love that.
interesting because
Yeah.
I almost think if like again,
Mm.
please add to whatever, but I almost feel like you're saying redefining strength is living within your integrity with yourself.
Mm, mm, mm. I love that so much. I love that. And I mean, just off of what you also said right before that, I'm a firm believer that the more authentically you show up as you,
Mhm.
regardless of what people say,
Yep.
right? The
Yep.
more you become a magnet for the right people, the right opportunities, the right life to find you. So
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to end that. Amen to that.
I mean, I just look, I got so excited. I give
I
myself I just like this is so good. So I wanted to thank you
Oh.
so much for this super honest, authentic conversation. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh.
And as an OBGYN, as you know, I walk in life through a lot of transitions. And
Yeah.
what I've learned is that every stage asks us to like rewrite the narrative. Strength's going to be different at 25, it's going to be different at 45, and that's not lost, it's wisdom. It's
I
building that
love
wisdom.
that.
It's taking away those blinders. And if you're listening and you're in a season of change, I hope this conversation reminds you that reinvention and those different acts aren't failure, that they're growth. Heidi, thank you so much for coming on, and I can't wait to do
Mm.
this again. And we'll talk with you all soon. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Keep listening to the Double Scrub. See you soon.
That was perfect.
Perfect.
You got it.